Chill, chill. Follow me. Follow me.
Yo, give it a stage in a minute, I'ma eat you. El profesor is in the house, let me teach you. I could defeat you with two hands tied and have you waking in the hospital like, who am I? And who are you? Who are they? What is this? You wouldn't believe how someone react to this shit. The mind slips, and speaking in tongues. Fly ink, GVA, that's how we get it done. 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 Sly ink, GVA, that's how we get it done.
And oh no, didn't mean to turn the camera off. And we're live.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome to Wars in the Stars. A new location for Alex and I. This is our this is our 30th episode. This is our 30th episode. And it's on a new channel, so it's definitely a little bit different for us. So we're really excited for that. We were on my personal channel prior to this for the first 29 episodes. You can find all of those in a public playlist that Alex and I created on this page. So yeah, well, if you're new here, we talk about Marvel and Star Wars. We'll talk about it every Wednesday for the foreseeable future. We'll also review movies like Shang-Chi, Eternals, Venom, all those fun and upcoming projects. And we'll start to do some reactions here. We'll announce that later as we get closer. So we're really excited. Alex, how's your day going, my man?
It's been a long day, had school and all that. We are, of course, finishing up all this, but it's been a good day. And I also do want to say, I'm the one who created this overlay. I know for the stream, it's not going to fully fit the YouTube screen. I'm gonna make sure it's fixed before next time. It's just compressed right now, so I'll make sure next time it's chef's kiss 100%. But
yeah, we kind of did this very quickly. We planned this for a while, but I kind of suggested it a little too late. But we're doing what we can. So today, guys, we have obviously the two big topics. The first Avenger, which Alex and I watched over the past weekend. And we're also going to talk about What If Episode 2. So I guess without further ado, let's get right into it. So we'll start with my co-host here. Alex, what were your thoughts on the first Avenger before you rewatched it this past weekend?
So I have been someone who always thought this movie was okay at best. I didn't remember much comedy in this movie. I remember the action was a little over the top. So yeah, it wasn't necessarily bad stuff, just overall just wasn't stuff that interested me as someone who's in a story. But I can definitely say I've had some opinion changes. Definitely no biases with some of these guys, or some of these things, but yeah, I'd say, just again, wasn't bad movie, wasn't a great movie, but Drew, what'd you think?
This was actually the first ever Marvel movie that I ever watched. So I've seen it about probably half a dozen times almost. I've always really enjoyed it. I'm a sucker for war movies, so I think this movie is automatically captivated to me, even though it's a twist on World War II. But I've always been a big fan of war movies. I won't give too much away about what I thought on this rewatch, but Overall, I've always enjoyed it. I thought it was probably a middle-of-the-pack MCU film, but I will say my opinion has changed on where I place it in the MCU. So, Alex and I like to do this thing where we talk about the good, the meh, and the bad. So, again, we'll go to Alex. What did you think we'll go with the positive stuff first. What did you think was good in this film?
There was a lot good about this movie. Like, it improved a lot for me. But, man, I must say, and we talked about this a little bit after the movie and all that, but this is Captain America right here. This is him at his peak, in my opinion at least. Maybe not with power and all that, but as a just character, this is him at a peak. I mean, I think if you want to sum up who is Steve Rogers as a whole, just the whole grenade scene at the training camp is everything. That is Steve Rogers in a nutshell. Which unfortunately it feels like for the rest of the MCU they never get back to this part of him. They tried to many times, but they just don't do it a lot, and it's a shame. It's a shame for sure, but yeah, I enjoy Captain America in this movie much more than I ever remember loving him.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think this movie perfectly encapsulates like what Captain America is and should be. Specifically the Steve Rogers version of Captain America. I think Sam Wilson's Cap obviously a little different, but this is a perfect version of an adaptation of a comic book Steve Rogers. I feel like with the other MCU movies, it doesn't go into as much as the patriotic Captain America, Steve Rogers. This movie is the origin of that. Like, it's very patriotic, loves his country, will lay his life down to fight for his country. Obviously, in the MCU, it's to save the universe, but I never feel... I think I like grounded films more, and I think that's one of the strengths of this movie. It's so grounded. Obviously, we're dealing with the Tesseract, we're dealing with Red Skull, but it feels so grounded with familiar... things that happened in real life with a little twist on it, and it just fits. I think the MCU sometimes has a hard time of making things fit or make sense. Sometimes I think that's with all sci-fi or fiction media, but this just fits. It felt right. It felt right for a Steve Rogers story. So again, I totally agree. I thought he was really good. It's a hot take. I think this is probably Chris Evans' most underrated performance in the MCU. I think he also does a great job as Skinny Steve. I think he's great in this film.
Yeah. Absolutely agree. Love Skinny Steve. The technology with it is, incredible. So just that alone is, especially for 2011 when this came out. So they were working on this for about 2010 and whatnot. So
right.
I think it looks phenomenal, in my opinion. But I also I love the idea that with the whole grenade scene is that Steve feels like he has not much he can offer to his country and his current state other than jumping on a grenade to save people. So that to me is Steve Rogers like at a peak.
Oh yeah, totally. It's just baseline Steve. And I also love, I think it's probably one of my favorite scenes in the movie is the training montage, and they're all going to get the flag. And all he does is just pull the pin, and Steve Rogers is going to outsmart you. He's not the brute strength guy. I also love his conversations with Dr. Erskine. Yeah, I love him. I love it over the conversation they have in the dorm or the bedroom about how the serum amplifies everything about you, and we see that in the Falcon and Winter Soldier, obviously. But with this, Steve's a good man, but he can't do anything. You see the scene in the car where he's talking to Peggy. He's like, got beat up in that alley, got beat up in that alley, got beat up in that alley, and the serum finally allows him to, use his strength, but in a good way. Steve would make a perfect Jedi.
Yeah.
Not he doesn't want to attack. He wants to defend. He doesn't like bullies. He doesn't want to kill people. He just wants to stop, people from being threatened.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that I wish we would have got more of this. I wish we could have. I feel like in the Avengers movie that he kind of just he stops the old guy from getting shot by Loki, makes a quippy remark to him, and then just goes to fight him. In this movie, he feels very diplomatic. He feels like we can do things this way and whatnot. And he feels like in this movie, kind of like how Captain Carter was in What If Episode 1. He's not even trying to be this big, brody soldier. He's honestly at this point just trying to earn the respect of his superiors. And they're not showing him that stuff, whether it's because he's skinny or she's a woman, any of that. And I feel like both incarnations of this story were really good and did a good service to this whole story as a whole.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think I kind of alluded to it or touched on it a little bit. I think this is another good for me. I think the humor, fantastic in this movie.
Way better
I think
than
it's
I remembered.
Right, and it's not. So with me, with humor, is it can't feel forced. It can't feel I just like the natural flow in dialogue, and I think Haley Atwell was fantastic as Peggy Carter, obviously, and the chemistry between her and Chris Evans was fantastic. But I think one of the funniest scenes in the movie is when they're riding on the car and they're trying to get Red Skull at the end of the movie, and Peggy Carter kisses Captain America, and the Colonel looks at him and says, "I'm not kissing you." And he's got such a military voice. He has a lot of funny lines and stuff. It's it's so funny to me. By the way, it's also really funny that that Hydra, this is nothing to do with humor, but Hydra has literally an Infinity Stone and they still can't kill United States soldiers. And even if they do, I mean, that's a terrible way to die, by the way. You get literally evaporated. Bad.
Yeah. But yeah, humor in this movie, dude, it is just so good for some reason. Sorry. Again, the Colonel was just so funny for no reason. I mean, again, when they're at the training camp and he's like, "'Cause we have the best men." And it's so good. He's so good in this movie. Another thing, I talk about Arrow a lot on the show, and currently on my first watch through Arrow, I just got done with season 4. One of the men who fight along Captain America is the bad guy of season 4 of Arrow, Damien Dark. I don't remember his name off the top of my head, but I was showing off. I was like, is that Damien Dark? I was like, oh my god, he's everywhere. He can't escape. You just can't escape this guy. And yeah, love him. Love all the side characters. Love all of the 107th in this movie. All really good. Fun fact about the Asian guy in there. He plays his grandson later on in Spider-Man: Homecoming, and even has a picture of his grandfather framed. So
right.
And then again, just Bucky was good in this movie. Unfortunately, he was not as good as he was in What If, but beggars can't be choosers. Which it's
ordered the calamari.
right. You almost
Are
ripped
you
my
the
arm
Queen
off.
of England?
Yeah. And it's again I wish honestly this movie had the humor that What If Episode 1 did. Again,
even episode 2 of What If.
Yes.
I think What If is just, we'll get into What If later. It's just weird cartoony humor, but I like it.
It's and I was talking to Drew about this because of What If. We watched What If earlier in the week, and then we watched First Avenger. I don't know why. I just kept waiting for the "Barn's still a Jeep" line when that was never in the movie. I was like, is that supposed to be in the movie somewhere? I was like, oh wait, no, that's in What If. Never mind. But I love the comedy in this movie. Again, the Colonel, honestly, underrated character. Again, the whole "I'm not kissing you" It's a great line. But I think also,
Or when he jumps on the grenade, Steve, and the Colonel's like, he's still skinny.
yeah, he's like, he's still skinny. Yeah, it's you know, there's something coming in, like, to move on to our next good. Although he was very brief in this movie, Dr. Erskine was amazing. Like, great character. It felt like, honestly, they were trying to recreate Yinsen from Iron Man 1. I was like, he's giving me real Yinsen vibes, but man, he was just so good. I like that. I really like the fact that he values Steve, not just for how big or Buffy is. I just think he values Steve's heart as a whole, and he's just like, yeah, you would make not a great soldier, but a perfect man. And that to me is just, I think it's such a good, valuable thing for a movie to get across, that you don't need to be a big, broad, 6'5" man to be a hero. You can be a skinny guy with a great heart and still do just as good. Which I think, yeah, it's a great thing, and yeah, I'd like to know what you think about Erskine in this movie.
Yeah, I think he's fantastic. I really do. And I think he's one of the big reasons that Steve stays the same throughout the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I think that scene where he points to his heart, Erskine points to Steve's heart during his death, really stuck with Steve. As much as that conversation they have before Steve takes the serum probably stuck with Steve, I think that part where he points to his heart, I think that totally sticks with Steve, because Steve, it appears, both his parents are dead, but we don't get that with Steve a lot. We don't get his grief. I mean, we do a little bit with Peggy, but he can't focus on that, right? He's got to go and fight all these battles with the Avengers and stuff. But I think that moment, it could have gone two ways, right? Steve could have, gone crazy. He could have, Steve was capable. Like, Steve is the most powerful human at this time. So he could have done a lot more harm than good. And I think when he points at his heart, it really sticks with Steve. And it's like...
And I think what's even cool about that whole thing is the little callback to Erskine in Civil War with the whole talk with Spider-Man about, where are you from? And he's like, and Peter responds with Queens, and he responds just like how he did to Erskine with the whole Brooklyn line. So I think that was, I think Erskine stuck with Steve for so long. But again, I just wish that there would have been more mention of him, apart from in The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and his major role that he wasn't even there for. I wish we would have gotten more lines from Steve about Erskine. It kind of feels like Steve kind of just forgot about him, except for that moment.
Well, we also have to remember that every single other, at least Captain America movie, is done by the Russos. I don't know who directed or wrote this film. And the Russos, I know you're not a big fan of them, and people will hear about that, but they definitely took the character in a different direction. I could tell that there were two different... I mean, Steve stays pretty consistent in his morals, but there is definitely two different perspectives on Captain America, for sure.
So the director,
two different takes.
The director was Joe Johnston.
Okay. I don't know who that is, but I don't know why. I don't know why they got rid of him. I'm not sure. I think I wish there was more of Erskine in the MCU. Like, there's just like with Iron Man with Yinzer. There's really not another. I mean, he's in Iron Man 3, but that's like a short cameo. There's not really a.
And I think
they were catalysts for why those characters became the way they are.
Yeah. And something else that, again, I rip the Russos apart a lot. Like, I respect their work. Again, and like, not to like harp on them, but, again, almost all of their movies are in my top 10. So they're good movies. They struggle with character development, though. They struggle real hard in the character department. And honestly, I think one of my biggest things in those movies was, you know, in first Avenger, and I think honestly, just to get my first meh out of the way so we can cycle back to good, because there is still a lot of good to go over in this movie, but it's just I want to get over it quick. Steve is very slow in this movie. Like, the way he throws his shield, it feels very sluggish. But then I think that's also because when we look at him in Winter Soldier, especially on the boat, he's throwing that shield and he's like hitting 30 people with it at once. In this movie, he's hitting maybe 2 guys at most. I honestly think the best version of Steve with the shield has been the first Avengers movie. Because he's not too fast with it, he's not too sluggish like he is in this movie. But in like Winter Soldier and Civil War, the Russos really overdid it with how Steve uses the shield. Like, he's using it, he's like throwing it at the ground and it's bouncing off 30 people. It's just like, come on now. Like, I would expect that from an animated show, but yeah, and the big thing in this movie is he like throws it like, he throws it, but it moves really slow. Like, to the point where it's like, couldn't that guy just moved out of the way a little bit?
Yeah, like you visibly see him like throwing it. I feel like in the other ones it's almost just like a frisbee. Like he's just here. It's gonna hit you. It's gonna hit you.
And I think I should
I know
also
what you're
say,
saying.
like, I don't know what happened with Joss Whedon with Age of Ultron, Steve also, because he also had that problem where it was just ridiculous with how he was using it. Like,
bouncing it off trees, just ricocheting, just like.
So I don't know. It's just for me. This movie felt a little sluggish with some of the movement in it, especially the shield. But yeah. Other than that, I mean, that's that meh. I don't know if you have any comments on that.
Yeah, I definitely understand that. I don't think I really have paid attention to that. I feel like it would make sense for Steve to be a little sluggish with it in this movie, considering he hasn't used it yet. So that one kind of makes sense. I really don't have any complaints, but I'll get into I think we should get this out of the way, because this will be an interesting conversation. I'm going to get into my first meh to bad. The villains. Red Skull and Zola kind of fall short for me. I mean, I think that Schmidt is interested earlier in the movie, but as I go on and see him more, because I think World War II history is interesting. I like how they kind of make it like Red Skull is Hitler almost, just more into fantastical Norse mythology. That side of him was interesting, but the thing they don't explore with him that I think is the most interesting is that he views Steve as Erskine's pet, views him as almost like his project, his final project, even though Schmidt was the first super soldier. He won't be viewed as that in history, and they kind of abandon that. Like when he's in Cap is captured, I wish there was more of a conversation there instead of him getting out. I didn't get a lot from him afterwards.
I agree, and I think also like Marvel struggles with villains. I think it's honestly Marvel's weakest point is villains. I mean, Phase 1 doesn't have very many interesting villains, neither does Phase 2. Phase 3 definitely has the best villains of any MCU. Just for example, you have Thanos alone, most interesting villain, and probably cinema next to Darth Vader.
Right.
But then again,
Joker and
you also then like have Hela. Great. I mean, she's not perfect, but she's still like. You get a lot of her in that movie, even though she's just introduced in that movie, and so many callbacks to the old Thor movies, really make her character shine. Like again, like we talked about with the whole Thor 1 when Odin calls Thor his firstborn. You see that kind of look of like sighing of like it's just not true. He's not their firstborn, and that made them interesting because it was a lie. Thor had been living a lie. And then again, you even have characters like Killmonger. While I might not be a fan of him, I can also respect that he is a good villain. Understandable motives, understandable way of going about things. You understand him. Then also not to mention, you also have Vulture, great villain, easily one of the best MCU villains.
Michael Keaton kills that role.
Yeah.
I think he's great as a Vulture.
But in Phase 1, that was the struggle. Only 2 movies.
Besides Loki.
Yeah, only 2 movies had a good villain, and that was Thor and the Avengers, because Loki was the villain. Like, let me ask you, what part of Ironmonger, of Red Skull and Zola, and Whiplash were all interesting?
Or Abomination.
Or, sorry, I forgot Incredible Hulk existed. Abomination.
I mean, I liked him. I mean, I'm glad Abomination's gonna be back in Shang-Chi, but like, the other ones, Obadiah is just like a generic bad guy who takes over company. Like, I don't care. Whiplash might be the worst MCU villain. Zola's just a weird scientist. Oh, he's not great.
I don't think Whiplash is one of the worst. I don't. Okay, look, I don't think he's the worst, I should say. You know who I think is the worst.
I do.
Malekith.
Yeah. But, yeah, again, but it's also their origin story. So I understand Marvel can't have, like with Thor, you can't have Gore the God Butcher as the. I mean, you could if you wanted to. But if. So you kind of set up the bigger villain. I think, honestly, the one trilogy that has the worst villains is Iron Man.
Yeah.
His best villain isn't even in his own trilogy. It's in Age of Ultron.
Well, not even that. Not even that. His best villain is in Spider-Man movies.
Right? I would love him fighting Vulture or Mysterio.
Right.
I would much rather see that. But anyways, to go back,
well,
yeah.
I want to say quickly. To me, you know, I think like in the comics it makes sense for Vulture versus Spider-Man, but in the MCU, this much sense. They have no history,
Right.
no shared history apart from one person, Tony Stark. That's it. That's it. And that to me is why, even though I just praise Vulture, he's still a good villain regardless of who he's fighting. I just feel like it should have been Iron Man who was there in that final fight with Spider-Man. But that's just me.
Yeah, to get back to the villain of First Avenger, Red Skull, he just goes downhill further and further. I don't find him interesting.
He kind of follows the same path as almost every bad guy in the MCU. He's just kind of a bad guy who wants to do bad things for no reason.
Yeah, right. And again, like I said, I think me and you agree on this. But do you think they should have explored more how he resented? Because they kind of touch on it, but they don't go into further detail with the Erskine thing.
Yeah.
He's Erskine's really first super soldier.
Yeah.
Why does it? Yeah, that should have been like his rivalry with Captain America. I understand that it's supposed to highlight the opposites of what the serum does to you, but the whole thing with Red Skull is like he wanted the power of the gods. By the way, another good. I don't know if it's intentional or not. The foreshadowing of Infinity War and Endgame.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it wasn't intentional, but it was a good callback for those movies to do all of that.
You could have the power of the gods. I see a world where it's not a battle of nations. It's like, oh, that's literally is what happens in the MCU. So
Right.
it's a lot of good unintentional little Easter eggs.
Well, even then,
Or maybe they were.
Another cool Easter egg to me is when we see Red Skull trying the new rifle that they have. You notice it sounds awfully much like an Iron Man repulsor sound. So I don't know. Maybe there was some finagling with Tony. I mean, because again, he recognizes the Tesseract. So maybe. I mean, I don't know. It's a weird thing. Like, why did they go with that sound effect for those blasters?
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So I want to get into. Alex and I will both get into a couple more goods, and then we'll kind of segue into What If. But I think one good for me, even though he's not in a lot of this film, is Bucky Barnes.
Yeah.
I love his relationship with Steve. I think they do a good job establishing that relationship there. And you talked about it right after we watched the movie. You didn't realize how early he died in the film. You thought he died a lot later into that third act. He dies really in the middle of the film, the second act. But I thought he was good. I kind of wish that the end credit scene of this movie was like him becoming the Winter Soldier.
Yeah.
I think that would have been really interesting.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
But yeah, I thought Sebastian Stan was great in this film. I also wanted, I'm going to tie this one in also, is Peggy Carter. Really interesting
Love her.
character. Badass.
Good relationship in this movie.
And I'll say this, in any universe, Peggy and Steve end up together. No matter what universe it is, they always end up together.
I think honestly, here's my thing. I think that was a perfect tragedy of this movie, was that they never got that dance. And now after rewatching it, this movie kind of feels useless. Apart from some of the backstory, I think what would have been a good ending for Steve is him resting, knowing that Peggy was looking down proud at him, not him going back in time and just being like, yeah, all that time I spent upset that I never got that dance, I can just come now and get it. That's why I wish this movie would have been like, yeah, that was the great tragedy of Steve Rogers, was that every woman that he basically loved, he basically always had to let go because of being Captain America.
Right.
And some of them, he had to let go and never got that dance with. So that, to me, after rewatching this movie, Endgame definitely affected this movie for me.
And it also, I think, in my opinion, it's also good for Peggy's story. Peggy is the strong woman that is working in the military at a time that usually doesn't happen. She's a badass in her own right. Peggy Carter is a badass.
Straight up just punch a guy in this movie.
Right, yeah. And I also think, you think she's worthy? You think she could lift it?
Ooh.
Mjolnir?
I'm gonna say no.
You're gonna say, I think she could.
Nah. I think maybe in the What If
universe.
Really... But not in the MCU.
Because here's why. She's very much like Steve. She was gonna jump on that grenade.
Was she though? She's
gonna jump on that grenade.
I don't know.
I think she was jumping on that grenade. She's very caring. She cares about people. She's compassionate.
I don't think
she's selfless. I think that's a big thing for Mjolnir, is you have to be selfless, and she is like the embodiment of that.
Is like, well, technically by that standard, Spider-Man's worthy, but that's not what creates worthiness. I think what one of the big things that makes a person worthy is their ability to kill someone. That's why Spider-Man will never be worthy of Mjolnir, because he doesn't have the heart to kill someone. So that to me is why I don't necessarily think that Steve, in a sense, should be fully worthy, because he also didn't like killing people.
Right.
But I also
he didn't like the stain on the shield. Yeah. That's a big theme throughout the MCU. He didn't want the blood on the shield, like we see in Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
So that, I don't know. That to me, like Peggy, I don't know. Peggy to me, I just don't think would be worthy. I don't know why. It's hard to put a full thing on. I think honestly for me, it's just because
we don't see enough of her.
Yeah, because the thing is we see Steve and Thor go through big sacrificial moments. Steve crashing the ship to save millions of people. Steve severing his friendship with Tony to save Bucky's life and coming clean about Tony's parents. Steve going to rescue Wanda and Vision at the beginning of Infinity War. Like, things that, like, if Steve would have got caught doing that, like, he would have been arrested. So, I think that right there is a big sacrifice, and I don't feel like Peggy made that big sacrifice. Like Thor sacrificed himself so that Selvig and all of them could get away. That, to me, makes someone worthy, and I feel like Peggy didn't make a sacrifice like that. Not that we know of, at least.
Not right, because we don't get a lot of her, but in this movie we do see her help Steve go after the 107th and Bucky. That's a big thing to me. Yeah, I think
Again, that to me,
she did put her life on the line. She went with her own gut. She defied orders.
I mean, okay, that's not sacrificing though.
No. I know what you mean, sacrificing your life or sacrificing something you love or sacrificing your ability to even do that. Like, Steve would have gone to jail if he got caught. But I'm just saying, Peggy always had a good moral code.
Yeah.
I think the thing with Mjolnir is you're selfless. You're almost like a Jedi, in a sense, where you're a defender.
Well,
you don't want to attack.
I don't know. Hela was worthy of Mjolnir, so...
Yeah, I think it's weird Thor was worthy in the beginning of the Thor movie.
Well,
there was no way in hell that kid was worthy of...
There was no worthiness charm on it. So, anyone could lift it. No, not anybody could summon its powers, but anybody could lift it. Now, granted, you'd be lifting a 40-pound hammer, so there'd be no reason to want to lift it, but you could theoretically lift it.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, that's interesting. But
I also was like, when we watch it, we normally skip over the post-credit scenes. The post-credit scene in this movie is a trailer to the Avengers movie.
Correct. Yeah, it's Steve punching a bag and getting his assignment. Yeah.
Interesting thing. I feel like they should do that for more movies.
I feel like we should too. Alex, you got any more good or bads? Because I think if you don't, we'll wrap up conversation on first.
You know how I am costumes. This movie rocked with costumes.
Captain America's outfit. Ooh.
Although it's not the exact same as it is in Winter Soldier, like they're not the exact same. There are differences. I think Winter Soldier is a lighter blue. It's missing some of the straps and whatnot. Still, this costume is by far my second favorite Steve Rogers costume, next to his Avengers Endgame costume. Like, if we were to do this real fast, what are your 3 favorite Steve Rogers appearances?
Like costumes, you're saying?
Yeah.
I'm gonna be honest, man. I really like his Infinity War get up.
I do too.
I also like this. I think this one feels so like, when you contrast it to what he's usually fighting in, it pops more.
Yeah.
Like the color pops out more.
Oh yeah.
I'm trying to think. I'm not a big fan of his Winter Soldier. I think it's just bland to me. I think.
You don't like the stealth suit? I love the stealth.
No.
I like almost every Captain America costume. Yes, I enjoyed the 2012 Avengers one.
I'm not even a big costume guy, so I don't.
Look, I think
probably his Endgame.
I think
I'm not a big costume guy, so I don't know.
I think the easy 3 are Endgame, First Avenger, and Age of Ultron. I love his Age of Ultron costume. I think the dark blue with the red and the white and how it's made on there is chef's kiss perfect.
Okay. Yeah. I also like the cinematography of this movie. I like the way it's shot. I like the slow montages it has. Yeah. It's really good.
Again, I just think, honestly, one of the biggest problems that it has is that in some of the areas, it is, again, like some of the cinematography, especially like when Cap's throwing the shield, it's just a bit sluggish. Also, this movie has the big, like, Marvel opening credits scene when Cap throws the shield. It's in this movie. Interesting little thing, so.
Yeah, so I guess now. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, no, you're fine. I was just gonna say, but that, for me, is, like, the only really, like, meh.
So, I guess I'll give my final thoughts on it. Alex has a spreadsheet, so his is going to be more accurate than mine, my ranking. You know, I don't know where to place this movie, but I know it is a top 10 MCU movie. Alex and I are rewatching Winter Soldier and Civil War here at some point, so I don't know how to rank the Captain America trilogy yet.
Oh, I think it's
but
by
this is a
far
top 10.
the best. By far the best trilogy.
The first Avengers. Oh no, I'm saying I don't know how to rank the movies within the trilogy yet.
Oh, okay.
So, I give this movie an 8.5 or a 9 out of 10, and it's definitely a top 10 MCU film for me. So I love it. Everything was amplified for me.
I gave this movie a 37 out of 50, because I adjust my score for some of the various other things that happen in this movie. Sometimes you can't judge a movie based on all the criteria that I judge my movies on, and my adjusted score is a 40 out of 50. I think it's a great movie, and I think the best character in this movie, without a shadow of a doubt, is Steve Rogers. So
I totally agree. So next week, Alex and I will be rewatching Iron Man 2, and we will discuss that next Wednesday along with episode 3 of What If. So that seems like a perfect segue now to talk about episode 2 of What If. Last week, Alex and I were pretty high praise for the first episode of What If. We love Bucky Barnes' What If. Where's the calamari? Or no, who ordered the calamari? Why did I forgot it now. Barnes stole a Jeep also. Are you the Queen of England? Okay, but anyways, this episode was the T'Challa as Star-Lord episode. I was really excited for this. Obviously, Chadwick's last big appearance in the MCU, sadly. I love the tribute. I not gonna lie, shed a tear. He gave it his all in this episode with everything he does. He was great. But Alex, what were your overall thoughts on the second episode of What If?
I loved it. I thought Thanos in this episode was a surprise. But yeah, I love this movie. I love this episode. I thought it was a great encapsulation of the what if. It's a very strange what if of very weird of T'Challa becoming Star-Lord. I wish we would have gotten an inverse of then what would happen if Peter Quill became Black Panther or the King of Wakanda, which it would have definitely been weird. Very winked at by fans, like, I don't think that works, but this episode was good. A lot of good callbacks, a lot of good actors returning for these roles. Again, Thanos coming back, Ego coming back, the whole Black Order, like, never would have thought that, but no, they all did. They all came back. The only person who didn't come back, and even though didn't come back, still sounded like him, was Drax, as with Batista.
Yeah, right.
But it still sounded like him to a degree, so.
Yeah. Obviously, Josh Brolin did Thanos. Who plays Yondu? Michael, is it Roker? I don't know. I think his last name is Roker.
So.
Obviously, Chadwick as T'Challa. But yeah, I agree with you. Overall, I probably like this episode more than the first one. I think it did a better job pacing itself. I think the first episode was like a rehash of the first Avenger, just slightly different iteration of it. This episode definitely went, we're going to start you with the familiar Guardians thing, where it goes to Morag, and then it just goes all over the place. Which I really enjoyed. I also enjoyed Blonde Nebula. That was a really interesting choice. I love what she calls T'Challa. Cha-cha. Cha-cha.
That's the name of my dog.
Really?
Yeah.
That's funny.
So, yeah, I also love this episode. Love the takes on many characters. Again, Blonde Nebula, really weird. Also, it's something that I was pointed out to on TikTok was if you actually look at T'Challa's Star-Lord helmet, it looks somewhat like the Black Panther helmet. So, it's a cool thing that he was Black Panther and he didn't even know it. I also liked how he still had his necklace, and that's how he found out about the Wakandan ship. Something that I will say, and it's a very, very niche meh or good for me, I wish we would have gotten like what we did in the first episode. Like we would have got what changed the timeline and like what changed the timeline. Like with episode 1, when Peggy decided not to go into the room, the Watcher said, and that is what changed history. I wish we would have got that with this episode. Like we know what changed it, but I wish we would have gotten like that, and that is what changed the timeline, or that is how history was changed.
So what I think is, if that's the case, it might be the same timeline with Peggy.
That is where I'm gonna say they should have made that a clear distinction then, because I say that, and the reason why I don't think it is because there is a Captain America shield in here. Why would they make a Captain America shield if there's not a Captain America to be in the universe? They have Captain Carter.
But my explanation would be like, what if somebody took up the mantle? What if it was John Walker earlier, took up the mantle earlier than he did and the Falcon and the Winter Soldier? What if it was, again, Sam Wilson, presumably, we don't know, probably won't meet Captain Carter.
Yeah.
What if Sam, like, yeah, I'm just gonna become Cap? And then the weird one, though, how are you going to explain Thor? Because we know we're going to get an episode with Party Thor. And we see Thor with Mjolnir in, like, one of the trailer shots where they do the Avengers thing, but it's not the actual Avengers. So how do you explain that? Hela. Like, Asgard's destroyed at this... I think the Collector destroyed Asgard. I think he's Ragnarok.
Maybe.
I don't think it's Surtur. I think he literally destroyed Asgard. But, yeah, it's weird. Maybe it's a universe we'll see later, and that's when the Watcher says, oh, blah, 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 this is what changed this universe. But, like, yeah, that is weird now that you say that.
That's just to me. It's my one small gripe. It's nothing that didn't make or break the episode, but yeah, everything else was so good in this. Like, I really enjoyed, again, like the pacing of the episode was great. I also really like how the Wakanda music came back when T'Challa was near anything related to Wakanda. So, really good touch. Really made me appreciate the Wakanda music from Black Panther.
Yeah, I totally agree with that, and I love the message that T'Chaka sends to T'Challa. Like, you know, we're looking for you. And it's really funny to me because I think this episode also perfectly encapsulates like the character of T'Challa. I was very compassionate, and that his compassion, if in the MCU he were to go to the galaxy as a whole, he probably would have stopped catastrophic events like Thanos snapping away the universe. Actually, when I watched the episode early in the morning, and I heard it, I'm like, did I hear that right? Did I just hear that he stopped Thanos with a simple conversation? And I see Thanos' arm. I'm like, what are they doing? And I will say, I liked Thanos in this. It felt a little quirky, but I don't mind that. It felt weird.
It was funny.
I enjoyed it.
I like how the entire episode, he's trying to justify murder or genocide. He's like,
right.
Well, it'd be random, but efficient.
Yeah.
Love him. Love him in this movie. I dare say, I like him more in this movie, or in this episode, more than Endgame.
Endgame he felt a little bland, but...
Well, yeah, because now in that one, he felt like bad guy who wants to do bad thing.
Right, yeah.
Infinity War, different story. He was bad guy.
Right.
He's bad guy who saw bad things and wanted to make things better in a very, 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 very twisted way.
He was just funny. Like, it's weird to like Brolin doing the voice too. I'm like, uh-oh. And then it's just like, it's a weird good guy Thanos, and I'm like, I just can't see this. It's like seeing a good guy Palpatine, him as Sidious. That's kind of hard to see. And like funny, a good guy Vader.
Like, you know how many times like he references that he's the Mad Titan Thanos? All the time in this episode, dude. All the time. It's great. Like,
Nebula says you're crazy, and he's like, No. I'm mad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's great. I was also thinking like
And I love his Ravager outfit.
Yes.
I think it looks so cool.
I also think it's weird. And I also want to ask you, do you think then in this universe, with this own what if thing, do you think we're gonna see Gamora go for the Infinity Stones instead?
I don't know about that, but I do think she is like the Thanos of this
Well, we
universe
already know
because
she
we
is.
see in the poster.
We already know.
Right.
That's how she's marketed. Is Gamora as Thanos?
Right. That's what I was gonna say because we see her like with Thanos' armor.
Well,
So
let me ask you.
one of the rumored episodes is Gamora going after Tony Stark, which is really interesting. But yeah, go ahead and ask a question.
I was gonna ask, like, do you think that shot where they cut to, I think it's T'Challa and Gamora,
Yeah.
posing as the Avengers, do you think that could be their little Avengers moments, but as, like, good and bad guy? Because, like, let me ask you, do you think Gamora's gonna be a good person or a bad person? Like, she's taking the place of Thanos.
I think she becomes good somehow. Maybe what they do is that Gamora is Thanos, but like a force for good type of Thanos, and that when she goes after Tony, it's like an evil Tony Stark. Like how we talk about how Ultron is the evil version of Tony, and how Vision is like the good, really good version of Tony. I think that with the multiverse, they can explore that idea of that there's really evil, like Ultron level evil Tonys, and then really good Vision, like good people like Vision Tony Stark. So maybe that's the way they go. But Gamora at some point, and I think that these group of characters are going to be somewhat of like the Guardians of the Multiverse, where like a crazy multiversal threat, like Vision as Ultron, comes after him, tries to conquer universes.
Maybe.
That's what I think. That's where I think it's going.
Maybe, but yeah, this episode was good. For me, I definitely do think it was better than the first episode. And the first episode was really good. So I'd probably give this 8 out of 10.
Yeah, I think I gave last week 8. I'll give this like an 8.5. I also like how heartfelt it was, the conversation between Yondu and T'Challa, them going back home to Wakanda. Yeah, I thought all that stuff was fantastic. And
Absolutely.
the tribute obviously was great. We'll see more of Star-Lord, T'Challa this season. And the end credit, or like the ending scene where Ego goes to find Peter. It's so funny that Peter's working at that Dairy Queen that we see in Guardians Volume 2, where Ego plants his seed. Yeah, so maybe they expand upon that some other point, or they, like the Watcher says, that's for another time. So we'll see what they do there. I guess I got a couple more questions about this for you, but what do you think about the Black Order in this? Thought they did better with them.
Yeah, I enjoyed them a lot more. Definitely say so. We didn't see them a whole lot, so there's not much of a talking thing. So.
Right. Yeah, I thought they just like go wherever they go, and yeah. And Howard the Duck, voiced by Seth Green. That was funny.
Oh, what? Sorry. Oh, sorry. What was the quote that he tells T'Challa in this? Isn't it whenever you're out of luck, find the... Yeah. Whenever you're out of luck, find the duck.
Find the duck, yeah.
And T'Challa's like, no, nobody says that.
And then, that's really funny. He goes to the bar, gets a drink, and then he also says that in Guardians 2, I think. I think he says that line in Guardians 2.
He might have. I don't know.
I also find it really funny that the pink lady, the servant, also like helps out again. Like in the first Guardian, is it the first? Yeah, it's the first Guardians movie.
Well,
she grabs the Power Stone.
Yeah, I was gonna say she doesn't really help out. She kind of like destroys that part of nowhere.
Right. Yeah, it's that scene is like, oh my god.
Yeah.
And you can see like the other, and I didn't even realize this in the first Guardians movie. There's literally like a dark elf,
Yeah.
and then there's one in this. And What If? I'm like, when did that happen?
Right.
I didn't realize that,
Why am I yawning so
but that's cool.
I'm so tired.
Cool little Easter egg. I gave it an 8.5 out of 10. So I guess that's all we'll touch on. What If next week? I believe is Loki on Asgard, which again, Alex and I are Loki stans, specifically me.
Sir.
So I think Tom's doing the voice too. Can't wait to see what happens there.
If he did it in a Simpsons promotion, he better be doing it in a What If promotion.
I think he is. Tom loves playing Loki.
Oh yeah.
So, I think now we're going to talk about some of the smaller topics. The first hour we talked about the main topics. Smaller topics, I think Alex is going to pull up that first article about the Shang-Chi and its premiere reactions. And, we're going to scroll down a little bit. And so Shang-Chi receives rave reviews. It says here that just under 3 weeks before, Alex, I scrolled down a little bit just to let you know, where it says, okay, you got it. Just under 3 weeks before it hits theaters, Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings debuted its world premiere to stars and critics alike. Brandon Davis says that it's a film full of action we've never seen from the MCU before and darker than expected. Eric Goldman emphasized that the film has a lot not in the trailers. It presents distinct elements that set it apart from typical origin stories. Eric Couch, the theater atmosphere, the most enthusiastic he's been with since Avengers Endgame.
Which, okay.
Umberto.
That was like the last big movie release.
Right. Humberto Gonzalez says that Shang-Chi is Marvel's first true family movie with plenty of likable characters. Okay. Steve Weintraub stressed that it's like no Marvel movie you've seen, while also saying it opens the door to a new world. Drew Taylor says, Simu Liu saying he is your new favorite Avenger. Wow, that's a high praise. PC Culture called the film a game changer due to its martial arts action. Wendy Lee says that fans will want to see this on the big screen. It's a good thing. Brandon Davis continued, by nothing, the third act is a little crazier than is needed at time, but it ultimately delivers epic action. Dorian Parks, hilarious moments. It's a summer blockbuster. So, all positive reviews for Shang-Chi. I did see some people online who went to see it said it has some pacing problems, it drags a little bit, and that the third act is very CGI heavy, which I know what movie that kind of reminds you of, Alex. The final battle of Black Panther. So, I don't want it just to be a crazy CGI fight without, any heart. But this is obviously really good that people are praising Shang-Chi. Yeah. Again, take these with a grain of salt, the premieres. People praise The Rise of Skywalker.
Right.
Again, you could like that film, but, not for me. But Alex, and there's 2 post-credit scenes. Apparently one is mind-boggling, but don't they say that about every end credit scene? Alex, what do you think of these first reactions?
I'm excited. I'm happy that it's getting its praise that it finally deserves. We've said this a lot. Shang-Chi's been very, very under-talked about on things like TikTok. I'm happy it's finally getting its recognition, albeit I say very, very little too late. So, yeah, I'm excited. It makes me want to go see the movie right now, but I can't. I gotta wait 24 days, 25 days, something like that. So.
You mean 15?
Is it 15? I don't know. Can I not count?
Yes.
Yeah.
September
15.
the 3rd.
I can't count. Sorry.
Right.
Don't judge me. I'm not very smart.
Yeah, again, I am really excited for it too. People, saying it's a great. I expect great martial arts. Obviously, I think Simu Liu is going to be a star. I think he loves that character. I think he's the next big actor of the MCU, kind of like Tom became, like Chris was, like Robert, like Scarlet, like all of the original Avengers were. So I think he's the next big hit in the MCU. I expect Shang-Chi to be a trilogy. They do trilogies with almost everything. They did a trilogy with Ant-Man, so I would expect them to do a trilogy with Shang-Chi. So I'm really excited what his future entails in the MCU. I was just reading an article. The box office predictions was at 35 to 55 million. That's less than the Incredible Hulk made the opening weekend, but now it's looking that it might make over 60 million based on pre-sale so far. So go see this movie in theaters. That's all Alex and I can say. I know Alex and I recently were talking about how we're worried about the film, and that it's not going to, we don't think it's going to be overly successful, but we're really excited. And we'll have a breakdown for it, of course. We'll have a preview for it also. But these premiere reactions definitely make me very excited. I'm obviously going to tame my expectations, but I'm very excited for this film. You got anything to add, Alex, about that?
Still, just like you, really excited, really hopeful for this movie. I hope it does good. I really do.
Yeah, I totally agree. So, the next smaller topic. It's our first Star Wars topic. We are a Star Wars channel, but Star Wars is kind of in a weird dead period at this point.
Yeah.
We got a Visions trailer. So, Alex and I kind of talked about it. We were working on some stuff before we came on stream, and
You didn't even send me a link to that.
No, we don't have to watch it. But we talked about it before, and we said that we saw how social media was really excited. They loved the trailer. They think it was off the walls. I saw some people saying I'm Force Awakens level hyped. And I watched that trailer yesterday, and I was really excited. But I wasn't that excited.
Yeah.
And again, you can do this, but I'm nowhere near that excited.
Yeah, I agree. I'll watch it. I'm sorry, but me and you kind of have the same problem. It's not canon, so I'm not excited for it. I want official timeline stuff. And again, to me, it's not a deal breaker if a show is canon or not. But I really do want more canon Star Wars stories on the maybe not the big screen, but the small screen. And to me, again, anime is just not something that I'm into. Not yet, at least. I haven't finished Demon Slayer or anything like that, so I don't know. That's, to me, it's just not exciting. I'm gonna watch it, hopefully get more excited, but that's just me.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, Alex. I just, it's not for me. I don't find it really, I think it looks cool. I'll watch it, but I'll watch What If over this. And that's, again, no offense. If you like it, I'm really happy for you. I gotta be real. It's something I'm not overly excited for. Like, a lot of the times when Alex and I talk about what's the next Star Wars show after the Bad Batch, we would say the Book of Boba Fett. We would completely forget that this even existed. And again, I am currently reading one of the High Republic novels right now. And even though it's a book, I still kind of value it more than Visions. It's not canon. And again, we always say that canonicity shouldn't matter if you enjoy something, but it kind of does to me. I want something to be a part of the greater universe that I'm watching. So, again, I'll watch it. I don't think I'll watch all 9 or 10 or however many are coming out on that September the 22nd, but I'll watch it. I mean, I don't got any predictions really for it. It's just going to be hopefully cool stories. They have a great cast. Simu Liu and Tamora Morrison and some other great voice actors, but it's just not for me.
Yeah, I agree. I'll watch it, but not anything I'm gonna rave about or get up at 3 in the morning, which I know they're releasing it all at once. So yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. I'd rather watch What If. And again, it's also something where I don't want to say like, oh, this is probably gonna suck. I was not excited for What If. So, and I'm loving it right now. So anything can change. Anything.
Oh, absolutely. I could love Visions. It could become my favorite thing in Star Wars, but just on a hype level, I'm like,
Yeah.
I feel bad because I saw the social media reaction of people love it, and I'm like, am I missing something?
Right, yeah.
And you felt like, what am I missing? I just like live action more. I'm more excited for it. And I think what the other problem is that I see so much stuff down the line. Like, we're going to get into some other topics later that revolve around Mando and Kenobi. But Book of Boba, December. We got 3 other live action shows. I got Bad Batch Season 2. I got a movie in 2 years. Like, Visions is very low on that totem pole, and that's what's making it suffer. Maybe if it was the only thing around, I'd watch it and be more excited.
Yeah, agree. Absolutely.
Yeah, so I think that's the perfect segue. I touched on it a little bit. We're going to talk first about Carl Weathers, who plays the great Apollo Creed, obviously in the Rocky franchise, and the great Grief Karga was at Steel City Con, and Weathers, it's in the 3rd paragraph of this article on Bespin Bulletin. He says, "We're going to start a new season of The Mandalorian in the next month. Yeah, and I get to be in front of the camera again, and I get to direct again. So I hope you all stay and look out for it. Watch it, support it, please, because I'm not just proud of my work, but I'm proud of the show and to be a part of it." So there was a lot of mystery. Alex and I had talked about it for a while. There's a lot of mystery surrounding Mando Season 3. When is it filming? Is it filmed with the Book of Boba Fett? Obviously, Boba Fett stopped filming in May or June. Giancarlo Esposito had some comments saying, "Oh, we'll film this year, we'll film it shortly," but we now have official confirmation, not from Lucasfilm, but basically from an actor, that it starts filming this September. So I would expect Mando 3 to come out sometime in the 4th or 3rd quarter of 2022. Alex, we'll specifically talk about Grief Karga and Carl Weathers. What do you think about Grief Karga returning for Season 3 of Mando?
I'm excited. I'm excited to see how he comes back, what capacity. Yeah, that just to me is like, I'm happy that they're about to start filming. Really excited for Mando Season 3. Season 2 ended on a very high point, a lot of intrigue. So, yeah, that just to me is where I'm at.
Yeah, there's a lot of story left to be told, and obviously Grief Karga is a character in this Mandalorian universe. I hope it's not just like a one-off thing like they did in Season 2. I hope it's him more prevalent. I don't want just like every season to be like, oh, we need to go back to Grief. So I hope they don't follow that route necessarily. And I think Carl Weathers is the 4th episode of Season 2, The Siege, with the Mythrol guy, and obviously Cara Dune was very well directed, very well put together. So I'm very excited for him to get to direct again and to play Grief Karga, which I think is a very interesting character.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm very excited. When do you think we'll get Mando 3? You think we'll get it? I think for sure we get it next year, but I want to hear your thoughts on that. Yeah, definitely in that Christmas spot. I think Mando, even with the hype for Kenobi, is still the biggest Star Wars thing out there, especially with how Season 2 ended. It's a global phenomenon. So yeah, and I guess the final smaller topic, we're going to talk about how Kenobi has finished filming. This is a report from LRM. They touch on the fact that I don't know who says it, but the Hollywood Reporter reported that Rupert Friend, who was rumored to play Agent Callus, was heading to a new project that started to film last week. So obviously he'd have to finish Kenobi filming. Bespin Bulletin also named other cast members who wrapped filming. I believe they named Sun Kane, Indira Varma, and then Jordan Mason below gave his thoughts. He's also an insider. He said yuppers. Yeah, I could basically say that Kenobi is pretty close or has wrapped filming, as LRM has said. So obviously that makes sense. I believe that people have said that where they filmed some of the Tatooine stuff for Kenobi, like the Lars Homestead and stuff like that, they're building new sets for Mando season 3. So again, this is kind of similar to our last topic, but Alex, what do you think about this Kenobi news with filming wrapping up? Yeah, so I think it will drop next time in the spring at some point. It probably will be the May the 4th time period. I think we might get our first look November the 12th. If it's something short, quick teaser. I wonder what your thoughts on that is, and like, when do you think we'll see Kenobi? Because it's the first live action show to finish wrapping of Andor and Mando. Right, and we'll have Book of Boba spill into 2022. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think I would flip-flop Andor and Bad Batch, so you would have 2 live action, then you have the break in the middle. You have the break in the middle, kind of. Yeah. Right. Okay. I just think that as the summer show, like, I've kind of noticed it with Disney Plus, the content's kind of lackluster in the summer.
Sorry, I just noticed my audio on my mixer was down a lot, so gotta reset.
Yeah, but yeah, I think it makes sense. Like, kind of split up the live action shows, but also it could work in your way with having the 3 in a row, and then having Bad Batch, and then having that big Mando season 3, the Christmas thing that you're gonna market for. So yeah, I could definitely see it going that way. But again, really excited to see Ewan and Hayden. Isn't that crazy to think?
I know. 2022, we're gonna be seeing those guys back on the big screen for the first time since 2005. The last time those two shared a screen, one of them was on fire and one of them had the high ground.
Listen, Alex and I have touched on it in prior podcast. This show, I won't say it's make or break, but it's a big deal breaker with the fans.
Yeah, so
like,
if this show does
yeah.
not do well, it's gonna lose a lot of Star Wars viewership, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's the biggest. It's probably Force Awakens. I wouldn't say Force Awakens level. I don't think anything will top that. But it's pretty up there. It's probably the second most anticipated thing in this Disney Star Wars era. I think for sure.
I definitely think that goes to The Last Jedi.
Okay.
I think the top 3 things are the big 3 movies of all the Skywalker saga. Like, we may have our feelings.
I don't think that.
We may have our feelings, but come on. Don't even get me started. When that first teaser trailer came out, everyone was hyped for the movie. Everyone was excited. They didn't care that Palpatine was somehow back. But with this, I would say so far, probably the closest thing to come to that reaction, I think the easiest thing by far was Clone Wars Season 7's announcement.
Totally.
Of it returning. That had Rise of Skywalker level hype. Like, people were like...
That announcement was insane.
The crowd there went nuts.
I literally cried when it got announced. I came back.
I was like, holy shit, it's coming back! Yeah, I was excited.
Just like one final ride. Yeah, fantastic. Right. Yeah, I think Kenobi is pretty up there. But again, Kenobi, I'll say this. I'm worried for the Vader and Kenobi sake. I am big into the fact that the first fight in A New Hope, we've touched on this. I think it's more impactful if that first fight they have in A New Hope is the last time they fight since they fought on Mustafar. If they fight in between, and I know what people are going to say, well, it's pretty up for interpretation what Vader says. Like the last time I met you, I
was about to learn.
I was the learner, but now I am the master. Yeah, it's up for. I'm not a big fan of them fighting, so I'm gonna love it.
Yeah, you're gonna love it.
I'm gonna love it when it do happen.
Skeptical.
Right.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't know. Yeah, so I guess that's gonna wrap up the show, guys. We had a great first time on this channel. Again, can check out all the podcasts that we did before in a playlist. We have a Wars in the Stars guest playlist. We had some great guests like Maddie the Archivist, Cart2D2, and Element 7.
I will say, there is also a specific playlist for special guests. It'll say old podcast with guests. So
correct.
Seek those out.
And then we have our regular generic episodes where you just listen to us two talk. We suck, so you probably would want to see a guest. But next week, we don't know all the topics, of course, but our two main topics will be Iron Man 2 and What If Episode 3 with Loki on Asgard. All right, so guys, we're going to sign off for now, and we will see you next Wednesday.
And done.
Whew.